everyone, and welcome to this strategic leadership introduction meeting. I'm Beatrice, I'm from Italy, and I'm part of Resilient Uprising. This launch event is about the strategic leadership training, which we are organizing in October. So if you can go to the next slide, Jesper. Yeah, I just want to share with you our project as Resilient Uprising for 2025 and 2027. So we decided to choose some pillars, which for us are really foundational for every group, movement, and organization that wants to bring real and meaningful change in the world. And in 2025 and 2026, we decided to focus on collaborative leadership. So how we can develop leaders and leadership attitude in our group so that we can bring initiative and allow other people to bring their skills, their knowledge, and their power into what we are doing. And now we want to dedicate to the strategic leadership pillar. So develop strategy in what we are doing. What we think it's important as Resilient Uprising, and what I personally think it's really important, is to develop a strategy in our groups, because I think that strategic knowledge and strategic skills are something that are really lacking in most of the groups that I met or that I have been part. So most of the time we define ambitious goals. We have we want to bring a big change in the world, and this is obvious, or it's also really good and positive. But what is negative is that we set up these ambitious goals and then we don't have any clear idea on how we can achieve them. So most of the time we end up in long discussions on the values or on the ideology or theory, or at the opposite, we end up focusing only on the tactical level. So we do events, initiatives, actions, any kind of activity, but we don't really know how these actions and activities are connected one to each other, and we don't know, above all, how these activities will really be able to achieve the goals that we set up. So that's why essentially we decided to focus on strategic leadership training for the autumn.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm not sure which part of the world you're coming from, but thank you for being here with us. My name is Nontogozo. I am a facilitator and a mediator, among other things. And I'm happy to say that I'm here with my co-facilitators, Anne and Jeroen. We have done a few of these strategic trainings together, focusing on leaderful organizing through another organization where we met a few years ago. As an activist, a bridge builder, and trainers, we just find common goals in wanting to make this world a better place to be. I also find that when we work together, our different styles of facilitation to actually be a point of useful, in a sense of complementary skills, and making our work really rich. And the openness for continuous learning and unlearning, which I highly appreciate from my two colleagues. And it gives us this field to continue to experiment and build on this important work. Well, at least we view it as one of important works in movement building, community building, organizational building. And with that, I'll pass it to Anne and maybe share with us a few words. Thank you.
So hello everyone. Thank you Nantokozo for the introduction. My name is Anne. I go by pronouns she, her. Something briefly about myself is that I love music. In my training, I love flip charts and that they look beautiful. I guess people that work with me know that. And that's not for a reason. I think for me, accessibility in trainings is key. And for me, learning styles is one of the ways to create accessibility. I've been a social movement trainer and facilitator for about 20 years in different movements. And I'm really looking forward to work again with Nantokozo and Jeroen because I think, we make a brilliant team. And looking forward to see you people in person. And I pass it to Jeroen.
Hello, everyone. Great to have you all here with us. Just in a few words, I've been involved in social movements for over the last 20 years. And I'm a self-described social movement nerd as well. I like to learn from others who came before us, are working in different places. I think it's not when you work around leadership and strategic leadership. One of the great leadership qualities which is underestimated is humility. There's so much we can learn from each other if we're just open to do that. And that's also one of the reasons why I really love this team. These are two of the people I've learned so much from, Anne and Nantokozo, as facilitators, as trainers, as human beings. That's in the end what we are, trying to build a more world where humanity and balance in the world is restored a bit and sanity is restored. So in a just way. I think that's enough for now on introducing ourselves, and we will go to introducing the topic. Isn't that correct, Anne?
Yes, thank you. So we go to the next slide. So I think it's a question that is a really interesting one. Strategic leadership, maybe you have some ideas about it, what it could mean, why would it be useful? The idea is that in this training, we will really go to the core of that. Because it spins around two different elements that are embedded in this. So if we could go to the next slide. So on the one hand, it's about strategy, and the other hand, it's leadership, and the kind of like osmosis between those two. So I'm also curious to hear from people in the room. If you could type some words maybe in the chat, what do the words strategy and leadership evoke for you? And where do you possibly see them intersect? And if nothing comes to mind, that's okay. If something comes to mind, it would be really interesting to hear, so we can also kind of like bring some of your wisdom into this space.
So long-term thinking is one of the first things being shared, definitely. And this is first association, so you don't have to think too much about it. Whatever pops up is right. Planning and finding the right person for a task. Building the right skills in organizing. Leadership as giving a direction. For strategy, a rule book and movement. For leadership, getting people to do things. Just go. Leadership as service is also shared in the chat. Great ideas. Thank you all for sharing.
Yeah, beautiful. I can see there is some beautiful thinking in this space. I think, something that stuck to me with what Jeroen has mentioned, there's something about direction. I mean, the long-term planning was mentioned. Strategy is indeed kind of like not just kind of like focusing on the what is the next move, what is kind of like maybe more like a reactive way of being in action or in movement, but it's about kind of like the direction, where are we gonna go? And then if I think about direction, it's not like a one-way direction. There is kind of like a multitude of directions that are possible. And I think there also the leadership element comes in, because I think leadership has many qualities to it. There's many different leadership styles. I think what people mentioned was something like finding the right person. But yeah, what is this, the right person? What are the skills? I also found it really beautiful that someone mentioned kind of like it is being in service. And like that could be seen also of kind of like leading from behind. There's different styles. And I think that's kind of like our goal also with this training, to kind of like figure out together also kind of like what are leadership styles in your group? What do you find in yourself? What is needed? I never think that there is one recipe that fits all, but there is lessons that we can learn from organizations and social movements. And if you can go to the next slide. So this is one possible way to look at it. That strategy is about setting out a course, and leadership is about enabling others to join that course. And then the central part in it, because maybe also sense it a bit, leadership is very much tied to power. It's also very tied to what I would call power intelligence, because for a person in a leadership position, it's important to create like deep awareness on power. We're gonna go more into this a bit later. So therefore, it's also really key to kind of like see in the group who takes on this role. Is it one person? Is it more people? How do you want to kind of like set this out? And what are the qualities for it to be able to work? Because there's one thing of kind of, I think I've been in quite some organizations where it's kind of like the few strategic heads come together, they plan out something, but they actually forget to kind of like include the people they're working with, kind of like more do it from the base up. Because at the end, what we want to do is build power. I think that's one of our theories of change that really underpins this work as well. So if we go to the next slide, to throw another line of thought, we hope that what we're putting on these slides is kind of like bringing some kind of like sparks to you. That strategic leadership is about being intentional about strategic work to increase our impact. So there's a lot about the intention behind things. I'm curious if one of my co-facilitators wants to add something, or if you feel like you want to add something, please write it in the chat.
It's interesting. One person added in the chat already before you mentioned the idea of intentional organizing. So the intentional word, it came before the slide. So it's really cool to see.
In the field. Yeah. Then let's go to the next slide. And I would invite Jeroen to speak to this slide, because I think Jeroen is such a big fan of Paulo Freire, and I think I've been really inspired by what Jeroen brings from, I mean, all his learnings with the theater of the oppressed and pedagogy of the oppressed. So Jeroen, can you please speak a bit more to Freire and why we're putting this quote here?
Oh yeah, definitely. And like I said, I'm a bit of movement nerd. Getting inspiration from all of places. Freire is one of these. For those who wouldn't know, I think his main work is Pedagogy of the Oppressed, which is a really important work in trying to look more political and doing political education work and rooting our justice work and a good analysis of what goes wrong in the world. This is actually a quote from a work he wrote many years later, revisiting his work, which is Pedagogy of Hope. I think very important. And the problem analysis in the one book, hope and vision in another. And I think it's both a very simple and very complicated question at once. The question is simple, but doing that work is not easy. And it's rooting us in this reality of what does it mean to do strategy work? What can we do today, he writes, in order to be able to do tomorrow what we cannot yet do today? I think there's so many elements there in a very in this one question. It's really about, let's recognize that there's so much we would like to change. And if we're honest, we don't have the power today to do it. We don't have the movement infrastructure. We don't have built the capacity, the movement muscle to be able to really realize the world we want today. And we can get frustrated about that, but that's not going to change anything. So we really need to be rooted in realizing that today we can't do it, but we want to be able to do it tomorrow. And of course, tomorrow is here metaphorically. It's not literally tomorrow, but we want to be doing the right things right now. And I think it's a question you can also take home with you after this meeting. Also thinking about if you would like to join the training we're going to run and the longer in-person training and workshops we're going to do. Already sit a bit with this question. What are you called to do now? What are you called to do now, tomorrow, in the next weeks, in the next months? As a group, as an organization, what are the steps you can set now to increase your capacity, to build your muscle, to learn, to grow, to learn also from failures, past failures, current failures, from partial successes. We reached some successes, we've done some beautiful things, but maybe it has not been enough. So what can we do now? What is the most useful way to spend our energy so that tomorrow we will be able to do more? So we don't have to reduce ourselves to keep on making the same mistakes. It's okay to fail. We learn by failing, we grow by failing, but let's learn from it and let's ask ourselves at any time what is the right thing to do now. So that is strategy, thinking about the future, recognizing what we have here today and doing whatever we can in the moment, knowing that it will allow us to do more in the future. Not just try to change everything today, that's not possible. Take that time, ask the hard questions, and as Samuel Beckett said, you fail again, but you feel better.
Okay, and that brings us to the next slide, please.
Yes, thank you. As Jeroen was saying, it's okay to fail. And where do we go when we fail? And how do we analyze this? And how does this connect with power? So, in movements or communities, there's this constant shift or challenge, of practicing whether to just like analyze whether we are practicing power with each other or we are practicing power over some of our members, or we are constantly finding that there's one person or a small group of people, as Anne was saying, who come together to strategize and they hold power, and yet information doesn't somehow filter through the whole organization. And sometimes when we hear the word power, we have negative feelings towards it. And how do we create spaces? And most importantly, to have tools to navigate that. And I feel it's really important not to shy away from identifying and creating spaces to discuss freely about power dynamics, because these are normal. As long as a group of people come together, there's a constant shift in power dynamics. And if we don't have the tools to navigate that or create spaces or safe or courageous spaces to discuss this, we sometimes tend to create harm, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Okay, so the next slide speaks more on, the sense of responsibility of knowing your power and connecting to the power you hold and how you use it. And one of the ways to do this is working and understanding the intersections of power and oppressions within your group and also in the personal level. So if you understand how this power moves within you, in your body, how it moves in your everyday life, and how oppressions impact you in your everyday life, when you understand yourself, you are able to come within a movement or an organization to show up fully and show up with dignity and honesty and vulnerability and authenticity. And also, you are able to somehow, when we're talking about leadership, know when to take on leadership and know when to step back and let others take on leadership as well. The next slide, please. And then next slide, really, so when we don't create these spaces of discussing freely power shifts, when we don't create the spaces of identifying where we're lacking or things that we need to learn or unlearn, it's normal that it then created a sense of lack of accountability, but also creates conflict. Conflicts are part of life and we cannot avoid them. So it is important. So I feel very strongly that power connects directly to conflict at times. And therefore, when we are creating movements and when we are creating organizations, we sometimes forget to make the time to strategize and plan of where do we go when there's conflict? What do we do when conflict arises? We most of the time wait until the actual conflict happens to then start planning of then what do we do now? So it's always important that as we planning and strategizing that conflict management, conflict resolution, mediation becomes part of the strategy itself. Who's going to hold that space for accountability? And we also know that you cannot force people to take accountability. We cannot force people to repair. So this is when you need to know what kind of individuals are you inviting into your group? What kind of individuals are you inviting into organizations? Are the people that are willing to learn? Are the people that are open to growth? Are they people that are open to getting feedback on growing or when harm is done as well?
Yes, thank you, Nontokozo. Yeah, as we said in the introduction, this is just a quick insight into the training, but we will explain you better in the next slides that we will have a kind of introduction workshop on the 21st of May, but I will explain you better. But I just want to first describe you how the training will look like. So we decided to organize this intensive deep learning. So the training will be 5 days long, and it will be a residential retreat. So what we did with collaborative leadership training in January was pretty similar. And it was so an intensive training. This allow people to really dive into a deep learning because it's intensive, because you can put all your mind, all your body, all your emotions on a window, which is good enough to really learn. And at the same time, you have the chance to speak with the trainers, to interact with the trainers also during the breaks or during dinner or whatever. And there is also it's also a great opportunity to learn from the others. So it's really a way where peer-to-peer community and peer-to-peer learning happens. And I think that from my experience, that part, so the part with others, sharing experiences, all the deep talk that can happen during breaks and meals is really essential to share experience and to reflect together and so on. Next slide, please. Yeah. So what is the training for? Ideally, participants are currently involved in nonviolent civil resistance organizations, are based in Europe, but not because we don't want people from other continents. It's most because of the capacity to travel and the chance to travel. So if you come from abroad, but you have the chance to come, please do it. And we would like to have people who are in leadership position or are organizers or are in core teams or whatever, but people who have experience in doing strategy, bringing strategy to their group, thinking on the long term, and so on. And then we would like to focus on people who are in organizations that have an explicit governance, but we know that it's really difficult to set a clear definition of an explicit governance and clear organization. So I think that we can speak to people who are interested in the training and check what's really their situation. But the point is to focus on people who can really bring what they are learning into the organization, and also kind of have trust that what they are going to learn will be applied in their context. So this is essentially why we are putting some criteria. Next slide. Yeah, so logistics information. The training will happen from the 19th to the 25th of October, but people are expected to arrive on the 18th or at the early morning in the 19th. So most of the time people come the evening before, and people will leave on the morning of and afternoon of the 25th. The venue is in Purmer, which is a small village close to Amsterdam. We organized the collaborative leadership training there, and it's a really beautiful place. You can arrive with public transport, so it's not long. It's like 30 minutes from Amsterdam. And there we will have a big house, some classrooms for the training where there is a lot of space, and we are really in the countryside, so people also can take their time, do some sport, walk, etc. And we will have accommodation and vegan meals, which will be included in the training. Next slide. Yeah, I will give the word to you, Jesper.
Thank you so much, Beatrice. Thank you so much, everyone. So we are going to need to have achieve some base funding in order to go ahead with the program. So we've already raised about more than 10% of this. And we're going to be in touch with everybody who comes through direct messages to follow up with everyone. So on the 25th, we need to have the base funding. So that's organizations, or we are applying for some grants, but also asking organizations to contribute like a one-off sum in order to make the program accessible for to continue to run according to schedule. And once we have that base funding, where it's going to be an average participation fee of 800 euros per person. Yeah. So what's happening, the next steps is we have the registration open, if you're able to post that, Beatrice. And then on the 21st, so in a couple of weeks, we're going to have an introduction workshop with some of the trainers, like a 2-hour one, so we can get more into it. And then a week later, we're coming to this deadline or threshold. And we're going to have the links for the registration. So what we're asking you, we're going to be in touch with each of you, but asking you to really consider what is it this would entail for you and your organization, other people in your organization that you want to bring, and any questions you have. Then let's have a few weeks where we're having a rapid conversation about that, so we can launch it according to plan. And if we can't do that by the end of May, we'll reconsider, and then the plan is to reschedule to a later point. And then over to you, Beatrice, in terms of the after party.
So the formal event is finished, but since we were really quick, we will have some time now for questions or quick reflections or questions that you have and that you want to share. And can we stop the recording, Jesper?